More on the complexities of carrying out a rescue mission like this. We have former Navy SEAL Dave Sears. He's in Washington, D.C., and he joins me now by phone. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Elaine.
So I think, Dave, I want to start off by getting your sense of what that must be like in terms of the conditions that these rescuers are facing as they try to pull these boys out of this cave. Why does the process of physically removing them from that cave take so long?
Well, one, just the pure distance that they are. So they're, 2.5 kilometers in or so, at least. And that's through twists and turns of complete darkness, black, rock, difficult to navigate. If that cave was dry, it's difficult to navigate. Then do water, fill it with water, make the visibility 0, put twists and turns and climbing in it, snags, small areas that you can only squeeze a person through. They have to shove their tanks through first. It's extremely challenging in the best conditions.
So I want you to elaborate on that if you could for me, Dave, because I think for a lot of folks, especially people who are not divers, it's tough to understand what that gear setup is like. So these rescuers, as we've been watching video, they've got helmets on, they've got these tanks that they're wearing, they've got these lights, but in some of these really tight passageways, they're having to physically remove these tanks from their backs, push them through first and get themselves and the boys through. In some of these cases, it could be doing this underwater, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I think there's one section in particular that they have to go under, and it's a real tight squeeze. The British cave divers who were initially there actually had to chip out and move rocks so that they could fit through that section. That's how tight it is. So you're dealing with things like claustrophobia, you can get vertigo, all sorts of twisted upside down. Diving is challenging in open water and a very dangerous undertaking anyway, in clear visibility.
Right.
Do it in a cave with currents, muddy, it becomes extremely difficult. And there's procedures for taking your gear on and off. You don't have room for error with when things go wrong. We all love air. We kind of need it to survive. So if something happens and you're under there, there's no just going to the surface. You have about 1 minute to 2 minutes to figure out the problem, take your time, go through it deliberately, and save your own life. So that's what these guys are kind of dealing with there. And then they're trying to get kids who are inexperienced in this out as well, teach them the equipment, the gear. They're not going to need to know all those procedures and all those things. They're going to have the divers to help them, but they need to have some basic training and awareness of kind of where they are and what to do if something goes wrong.
Not to mention, Dave, these kids have been in there for 2 weeks and are presumably in a very severely weakened state. What must that be like, too, when you talk about the need to stay calm in a situation like that? How tough is this mission for these rescuers?
It's pretty tough, but it's what they're trained to do. So they're not just taking people off the street and saying, go rescue these kids and try and give it a shot. These guys are trained to deal with stressful situations. They have hundreds of hours probably under the water. The cave divers have hundreds of hours in the cave. So the more that they can present a positive and it's okay sort of mantra to the kids will respond to that. You know, we feed off of everybody else's energy that's around us. If they're portraying a good positive, which I'm sure they are, that's what the coach did, I guess, when he was in there. You know, he has a history as a Buddhist monk or something going way back. He's helping them stay in that mindset of, it's all right. We're going to be fine. Stay calm. Panic will kill you, especially underwater, in a cave, any of those. So it's real important to keep their mental attitudes now positive and as they get out. You know, whoever gets out, you want them to not be victims. This was just a fun adventure to learn from. It's a positive experience. Here you go. That's how you go forward with these things and live with them.
So we know, Dave, that about 90 divers are involved, both Thai divers as well as divers from all around the world. Can you explain to us, first of all, does that number, considering the number of people who are in need of rescue. Does that number seem large to you? Does, what exactly will all those divers be doing, you think?
Well, one thing that you talked about earlier is that staging of air supply or oxygen along the way.
What does that mean? Can you explain that for us? Because I think people may not understand when you talk about a journey that can take 5 or 6 hours, those tanks are good for how long?
Well, the ones that it looks like they're wearing, it looks like they're wearing basic air. You know, the air that we breathe that's compressed down and put into a bottle. At certain depths, it depends how deep you go, but let's say the standard one could be maybe an hour, 60 minutes at 60 feet is a general sort of guideline. So that's about what you can spend and not worry about decompression and things like that. So about, an hour on those bottles depends on how you're breathing, how difficult and how strenuous the swim is. As I understand it, though, there's several sections where they can walk and they can breathe just the air in the cave. So what they're going to do is along that whole route, they have to attach fixed lines. So a rope is going to go all the way that entire way so that can guide them and they can hold on to that and find their way out of the cave. So they have to attach that and make sure that that's in place. So you have divers who did that. Then you're going to stage oxygen bottles or air bottles, depending on what they're using, all along that route so that they can switch out as they go. So they may come to a place where they're above the surface of the water for a little bit, and they'll have some bottles there so that they can refresh, put new bottles on. And then there's other divers who got to go in and get those old bottles out and replace them. So I don't think 90 is too high a number at all. You can get divers they've been under too long, depending on the depths. I've heard different things on depths, on how deep the water is. If it's 90 feet, you could have decompression issues. So that diver is going to need to take a break and be replaced by another diver if he's been under there for a while, and he has to spend a certain amount of time on the surface. So 90 doesn't sound unreasonable to me at all.
So we know, Dave, that President Trump tweeted earlier that the U.S. is working closely with Thailand on this. Can you give us a sense at all, what kind of assistance would the United States be able to offer in this kind of situation?
The U.S. is going to be able to offer all sorts of things in terms of, one is just planning and experience with this. Hey, how do you go through all these contingencies? Have you thought about everything? We can offer experience, and we're incredibly well-versed at logistics. How do you move equipment? So think about all the equipment and people that are there and the coordination that it takes to get them all into place, to replace the equipment, to get power in. So we can help them with any of those pieces in terms of specialized equipment coming in. How do you just get it in? Not only acquiring it, but just getting it there to that location. So can we help them in that capacity? We can help them with planning. We can help them with some of the diving pieces. We have some of the best divers in the world, if not the best. And so can we bring in people or expertise or hook them up with, internet, Skype, mobile stations, power sources, things like that. Whatever they need, I think that we're there to go, hey, we can help fill gaps and make this easier on you.
So you spelled out so clearly for us why the preparation process can take so long. You talked about having to go in and stage those oxygen tanks along the way and then retrieving the used ones. We heard about the death of a retired Navy SEAL, Dave, that was helping with this rescue mission. What does that sort of underscore for you based on your experience as a Navy SEAL?
It is very dangerous. That's what it should underscore to everybody. As he's in there doing that, accidents happen, and there's things that you just cannot anticipate. So you try and prepare as much as possible, but this is a very inherently dangerous undertaking. And even the most experienced people are going to lose their lives. Now, he's doing a working class dive, right, where he's trying to set these bottles or trying to get through a place. It's not going to be the same thing that the kids are subjected to. But it is extremely inherently dangerous, and these guys are, putting their lives on the line. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's an incredible effort, and just really, truly a miracle that these rescues have happened so far without further lives lost. Dave Sears, thanks very much for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks, Elaine.